Indy played 12 years in the NFL, defensive end with 3 teams. He knows what he's talking about, and we're going to talk about the Houston Texans right away. Let's start with Andre Johnson.
Well, what can you say? Andre went down again. All the reports are saying it's not as serious as the first injury, but this is when you start thinking about the future. And I know good teams that are going to the playoffs, they don't think about the draft in December. But guess what? Good GMs do. And I'm thinking if you're a proactive GM with what this team has accomplished, with what you want them to accomplish with years to come, you have to start thinking wide receiver has to be your #1 priority in the upcoming draft. And not so much because of just depth, but you also want to give Andre a viable option. You want to get somebody else who could stretch the field and give defenses another wide receiver for them to be afraid of. So I really would expect after the playoff run and when it comes to the draft time that the Houston Texans would have a wide receiver as their #1 option.
I agree with you 100%. Another thing about Andre, if it were as bad as the first time, which required surgery, he'd be out at least till the Super Bowl if the Texans were to get to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they will, but that's when he would be back. Now, I think that I can't imagine, based on the way he went down in that victory over Atlanta, that he would be able to play at Cincinnati. But this next man up motto is being tested to the extreme, and everybody knows he's done a fantastic job. Now, they've had a lot of players play really well. I know you got one that's been very underrated. Tell us who it is.
Glover Quinn, and you're absolutely right. It's been underrated with the great play from all the Brian Cushings, the Brooks Reed, Connor Barwin, Antonio Smith. The list goes on and on when you talk about the Houston Texans defense. But don't forget about Glover Quinn. He's a big reason why this defense is ranked 2nd overall, 4th in rushing, 4th against the pass at that safety position. He's doing a good job rolling and helping out the coverage of the corners in coverage, and he's 2nd on the team in tackles, so he's helping against the run. To make that move from cornerback to safety as successful as he has, it's a big story.
When he came out of college, everybody thought he was a safety first and a corner second, just like they thought Connor Barwin was a better 3-4 outside linebacker than a 4-3 end, and it's coming to fruition with both of those players. Now, if the Texans beat Cincinnati at Paul Brown Stadium and New Orleans beats Tennessee in Nashville, the Texans win the AFC South. And the way that is, no matter what happens the rest of the season, if the Texans were to lose all their games and lose to Tennessee, Tennessee wins the rest, beats the Texans, it comes to the 3rd tiebreaker, common opponents, and the Texans would be guaranteed of beating the Titans 8-4 to 7-5, so they need to win this game. They're going to win the division anyway, but that's very, very important for them. So we both think, everybody thinks they're going to be in the playoffs. How many guys they got to have playoff experience? And is that important? Because you've been in a lot of playoff games.
It is very important because they have a lot of young guys making plays, young active guys. But the regular season and the playoffs is 2 entirely different seasons. And I always heard that when I was going to the league, but when I finally experienced it, I saw what the players were talking about. And when you look at Antonio Smith, he's been to a Super Bowl. Jonathan Joseph, Danielle Manning. They all have a lot of playoff experience, and these are the guys that I think are going to be able to tell the young guys, hey, this is how we approach practice. This is how we approach the game. We don't get too up. We don't get too down. This is how you handle all the extra media coverage, because it can be overwhelming for rookies, 2nd, 3rd-year players that have never experienced the playoffs. So I think those additions with what they're doing on the field is big, but what they're going to bring, the experience they're going to bring to the playoffs, to the team, to the locker room, how you're supposed to handle it, and not start reading the press clippings and start believing in your own hype. I think that's going to be valuable for this team.
We're believing everything they see on Radio Faces. Now, in the playoffs, kicking is very important.
Yes.
Neil Rackers, of course, went to the Super Bowl with Arizona 3 years ago. Him having playoff experience and lining up to kick a big one, whether it's at Reliant Stadium or on the road, I think is incredibly important and something we can't overlook. This staff's been to a lot of Super Bowls. Gary Kubiak's got 3 rings. He's been to 6. Rick Dennison's been there. Greg Knapp's been there. I think those 3 coaches I just mentioned, we all know Wade Phillips and the defensive staff has done a fabulous job, but Kubiak, Dennison, and Knapp, I think they've done a fabulous job too. I was telling you earlier, I saw ESPN, their experts, Eric Mangini and Eric Allen, 14-year cornerback, asked them for the Coach of the Year candidates, and they said, start with Jim Harbaugh, then they said John Fox, then they said Mike McCarthy, then they said Bill Belichick, and didn't even mention Kubiak, which I think is absolutely preposterous. How important has coaching been on them being 9-3 with 6-game winning streak?
It's been huge. I don't like to give too much credit to coaches because players got to play. They're the ones who have to go on the field, take the hits, throw the ball, make the catches. But you have to be put in the right position. And when you see your stars go down and the next man step up and there's no drop-off, you have to credit coaching and you also have to credit the players. But the coaching job that's been done this year has been tremendous. Like you mentioned earlier, I played 12 years, and I don't think I've ever been around such a coaching job when you talk about the adversity this team has to handle. I think the main reason that he's probably not getting the credit that he deserves, and I want to emphasize he deserves, is because around the nation, the perception is Wade Phillips is the one that's making this team successful.
Well, Wade Phillips is not coaching Matt Leinart, and he's not coaching T.J. Yates, and Wade has done a great job. The defense, I can't believe they only gave up 1 touchdown and 10 points to Atlanta. I thought Atlanta, with all that firepower, the most since they'd played against New Orleans, would come into Reliant Stadium, put more points on the board, more yards. What do you think about the way they played, and can they sustain that at Cincinnati, which doesn't have as much talent but still got a lot?
Oh, they definitely can sustain it. I think the Atlanta offense is better. They have more firepower than Cincinnati. And coming into the Atlanta game, a lot of people were afraid, okay, they have a young rookie quarterback, so it's going to give the opposing offense more chances on the field. Well, guess what? They still held an explosive offense to 10 points. So I think they're only going to get better. This team, they're young, so it's not like guys who have a lot of miles on their legs. They have a lot of depth. Tim Jamison, Tim Bullman. There's still guys that aren't starters that could go in there and give you quality reps. So I expect the defense to raise their level of play and only to get better going into the playoffs.
What does it mean to a defense to be on the bench for a 19-play, 85-yard, 10-minute, and 41-second drive that ends in a touchdown?
It means we're fresh. We're thankful and we're fresh. You get to sip on the water, sit on the bench, get your legs back. Then after a while, guys, the number one goal for a defensive player is to get off the field. And you want your offense to stay on the field so you can recuperate and get your breath, get your legs. But after a long drive like that, you're itching to get back on the field. So it makes sure that you stay fresh, and it just gives you that vigor, that hunger to get back out there.
I went back and looked, and just about everybody around the country, on ESPN.com, NFL.com, everywhere, picked Atlanta across the board. Chris Carter was the only guy at ESPN that picked the Texans to win. So they beat Atlanta. Now they go to Cincy. Cincy's lost 3 of 4 to Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Do you think they can win this game? And we both picked them over Atlanta. Can they win this game? Can they win out and go 13-3?
Can they? Yes. And I'm pretty much expecting them to. When you look at Cincinnati, though they're considered a tough team, they're a playoff contender, they don't impress me. I feel like Andy Dalton has gone past expectations, but I just don't look at them as a team that's going to go far into the playoffs, and there's nothing there that scares me when they play the Houston Texans. I expect the Houston Texans, well, I'm not going to say it now. I'll wait till we pick our games later in the show.
Well, I'll tell you what scares me, and I see Dan Orlovsky go 30 of 37 for 357 yards and 3 touchdowns against the New England Patriots.